Good afternoon, Capital Region restaurant diners and restaurant world people. This is Steve Barnes from the Times Union and the Table Hopping blog. We are here once again to talk about the hospitality industry and the shutdown that maybe finally, it looks like, we have a reopening date for table service, dine-in at restaurants. That window will probably be June 17th to 20th, somewhere in there, because Governor Cuomo's office has just today given the Capital Region a go-ahead to start reopening the first phase of businesses tomorrow. That's Wednesday. And restaurants are in phase 3, so they would come a month after that. Best case scenario, it could be the 17th of June. We will once again see restaurants, be able to go into them and sit down. Who knows what exactly that will look like? The shape of it is coming slightly better into view. There's a group of leaders called the Capital Region Control Group that has been working on how businesses in different phases will roll out, and they put forth some guidance on what restaurants are supposed to do. It's not exactly clear yet what will be mandated by the state and what will be merely suggested on the county or otherwise local level. There are two pages of these guidelines. You can go to Table Hopping on the Times Union website and look for it there. I do have screen grabs of those 2 pages related to restaurants. Some of the things that are likely: masks on staff at all times, which may be a little awkward for your servers, but for your kitchen help is going to be really onerous. Kitchens are hot places anyway. In the summer, it's easy for a restaurant kitchen to get up into the 90s or even above 100 degrees. 2 years ago, during a really crazy hot spell, I asked restaurant owners and chefs to take temperatures in kitchens, and one of them was more than 120 degrees. So you can imagine what a mask would be like in that environment. But if it's what is required, you can be guaranteed they're going to do it. Customers likely will be asked to wear masks, at least while entering the restaurant, and until they're seated. Tables will have to be 6 feet apart. Employees will need to be health checked, and what that'll mean, it'll probably mean a touchless thermometer. There's even some talk that maybe they will take customers' temperatures. Big thing: no pool tables, no pinball machines, no other arcade games, and no jukeboxes. They will actually either have to be removed or simply taken out of commission, because people using the same things over and over again will not be considered safe. A lot of this, how this will be enforced, I had an interview yesterday with Albany County Executive Dan McCoy, who's on the control group, and he said he didn't know how it would be enforced or even whose job it would be to enforce it, because if these are state regs, that would be one thing, but county certainly doesn't have the manpower, the person power to do it. It'll be curious to see how that rolls out. My guest today is Vic Christopher of Clark House Hospitality. Vic started out in the area. It's a familiar story to anybody who knows the restaurant business. He was the assistant general manager of the Valley Cats baseball team over in Troy. Worked in economic development for the city of Troy, and then decided he and his business partner, Heather Levine, wanted to strike out on their own as small business owners. They founded a wine bar that then grew into a restaurant, a cafe, a retail wine shop, and also a dive bar called the Bradley. Vic has been very aggressive through all of the shutdown and adapting to it and changing his business models and doing delivery. And he's certainly got a whole lot of ideas for what he's looking for, what he wants to do next. So when we see Vic here, we will transfer on over and get an introduction on what's happening at Clark House Hospitality. Vic, are you there?
Steve, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Great. So was there any point at the beginning of this, back March 16th, when you said, I don't know what the hell we're going to do? Or did you sort of
a phrase I learned working in baseball is you don't think, you react. And the time that it became apparent to me was when the NBA canceled their season. And I realized at that point, that is billions of dollars in economic activity that is just gone just like that. And you better believe that affects the rest of the country, and that's going to affect Troy, New York as well. That's the moment that it became real for me, is when the NBA canceled the season.
Okay, so what about you? Did you think, how are we going to do this? Or did you instantly start, how quickly did you convert to takeout? Was it the next day or?
Yeah, it was immediately, because, you know, in business, you always have all these contingency plans, or you have other things that you're working on. And for us, there were two
You
things
didn't
that
have
we
a
started
contingency plan for
immediately.
a pandemic. I don't believe you.
Not that you have contingency plans, but there are things that you want to do as a business. And for us, increasing our delivery scope was something that we had talked about for a long time. I bought a Vespa scooter probably 3 years ago for that purpose. And we just never really, for the purpose of delivering wine from our wine shop. And we just never really did it. And so that was the first thing that we did, just very quickly. You know, we're like, let's get the Vespa on the road. And yeah, we did it immediately. Another thing that we had wanted to do, we had a great little grocery store downtown, and we closed it up about 4 years ago, and it just never sat right with me. I felt that downtown Troy should have a grocery, and we'd like to do more grocery offerings. So that was one that we had experience doing it, and we just quickly dusted that concept off and put it right into place. So the grocery thing and the delivery thing were two things that we did like the day that this became apparent that we had an issue here with this pandemic.
So how many employees did you have, say, at the beginning of March, and then once the shutdown started, how many were running the operations?
Well, in terms of people, we had 48 employees, which translated to 1,150 man hours per week. And so you're on my staff email, Steve. We communicate with the staff. We've invited everybody back multiple times. And we have about 17 people right now working for the hospitality group in the restaurant, in Little Peck's, which is still functioning. And they're working in a full-time capacity. And in order to make up that difference for the 11,150 hours, in order to be at the same volume of man hours, we've hired a lot of those people back in a construction project job responsibility. So we've hired some contractors as well. So we're still doing close to about 1,000 hours, and most of the hospitality people that were part-timers are now full-time. And we, in addition, hired a project division as well.
Now, one of the things that you're moving into is, look, you've got a lot of space there. I mean, you know, Clark House with its own space. You've got there's 3 floors there. Peck's Arcade and the cafe were in one. Upstairs was the bar, and then you had additional space upstairs. You've got the shared garden that adjoins with the wine bar, Lucas Confectionery. So tell us about, what are you doing with the upper floors, and how do you envision, once dining in and table service are allowed again, how do you envision using that space, and what are you working toward?
We used to serve 50 people in our dining room at Peck's Arcade. And so now the goal is have 10 dining rooms with an average of 5 people per dining room, and spread everybody out throughout the space as well. We know 2 things. People want food and they want space. And we're in a unique position to be able to offer that to them. Right now at this moment, we have our structural engineer who's been working on this building since 1981. And he's always wanted to see the upper floors activated. So right now he's doing structural weight load capacities for the building. For a residential use, 40 pounds per square foot is what you need from a structural standpoint. From an office standpoint, it's 50 pounds per square foot. Now for a restaurant, you need 100 pounds per square foot in terms of structural capacity. We're not going to be able to get quite that high. So what we're going to do in order to meet those requirements, we're going to decrease capacity on the 3rd floor and limit it accordingly. So we're working on those calculations today.
Gotcha. And what have you been doing for menus? Because you had a variety of concepts for you. There were distinct concepts. The wine bar had its fare, Peck's Arcade had its fare, there was the cafe. What have you been doing now, and how do you envision that going forward?
Well, Little Peck's has been kind of the only brand that we've kept alive throughout this process. But in the future, moving forward, the brands will be less tied to an area geographically and more tied to the products and the menus that we're offering. So for example, if we're doing an Italian menu, and by the way, people like ordering meals in packages for their families. It's just one of those things. They like when we take the guesswork out of it and send them an appetizer, a salad, a bottle of wine, an entree, and a dessert for their family. And I think that's something that will continue. And so to play off of that, when we're doing an Italian meal, it's going to be coming from Donna's Italian. We do something on a higher end, like a steak dinner. Well, that'll come from Peck's Arcade. And we'll do our wine tastings from Luca's Confectionery. Peck's Arcade will be our all-day cafe. So I think moving forward, the brands will be less tied to an address and more to promote menus to the customers.
That's similar to the ghost kitchen concept that was gaining popularity in bigger cities in previous years prior to the pandemic shutdown, where there might be 3 menus coming out of one kitchen, and it seemed like 3 different restaurants, but there wasn't actually a physical restaurant. It was all just an identity.
Exactly, and we're going to start out that way, and hopefully at some point those brands can come full circle once again and become independent restaurants. But I don't see that happening until there's a vaccine for this thing, Steve.
What have you been hearing from customers in terms of do they want to come back? Do they want to sit out, or are we getting? Do we have a whole bunch of takeout converts who are going to stay takeout converts?
I think your survey did a very good job of taking the temperature to determine what percentage of people are looking to come back. I think that 40% number seems to me to be about right. I think it's up to us to create an environment where people feel safe. And I don't think that we can achieve that. We have that little bar, the Bradley. I know that we can't achieve that level of safety and security over there. So we're not even going to attempt to reopen that place for a while. I know that we can achieve it here at Clark House. And I think if people know that we're working hard to create a safe environment for them, they'll be more inclined to come out for dinner. What are the trends that I've noticed? I've been doing deliveries since the onset of this pandemic, and I can tell you that contactless is something that people are going to require. In the beginning of doing these deliveries, I used to ring the bell. I used to wait to see the customer so they knew that the food was safe and nobody had an opportunity to mess with it. I used to acknowledge and maybe have a little bit of small talk. And as the weeks went on throughout the pandemic, it became clear to me, people don't want to see a human being. They want the food to show up and they want a text message. And so we're going to take that concept and bring it into this building to the best of our ability.
What we've been hearing is that restaurants are, well, they're not making as much money. The income is down 50% or more, and yet you've spent a bunch of money. You know, you went out and bought yourself a really fancy pizza oven that I will say is putting out excellent pizza. Love the pizza, but this was a significant expense. You know, you went and spent a lot of money on a pizza oven, and you're doing all of this construction. What gave you the confidence to go ahead and do this, and how much of this is government loan or PPP money that you're using for this?
Great question. It's a 2-part question. Number one, pizza has been the only area of growth in the restaurant industry throughout this pandemic. It's pizza. It's one item. And we've always wanted to do pizza. There's been a lot of short-term thinkers around a lot. And I'm not one of them. I'm a long play type of guy. I'm thinking long-term. I think right now you have to think long-term more than ever. You have to focus on hospitality now more than ever. People need it now more than ever. And as far as how we're funding this thing, when we went out on pause, our servers and our staff was doing very well financially to the point where their unemployment is fantastic and good for them. But as far as the organization goes, we were able to get about $300,000 to spend mostly on payroll. And most of what we're doing is labor intensive in terms of from a build out standpoint. We're not spending a whole lot of money in building materials. We've gotten very good at using as many reclaimed materials, and we've got a warehouse full of stuff. So it's very labor intensive. So we will never see an opportunity like this ever again as an organization to grow. And with the help of the PPP, we realized this is our best shot. And so we're going for it.
Are you confident that you will not have to pay back the PPP, or are you figuring, well, it's a low interest loan and business will grow, and if we have to pay it back at 1%, we'll be able to do that?
We are following the PPP to the best of our ability, to the letter of the law. And I am anticipating 100% forgiveness based on the protocols that we're following. I don't see how they'd be able to make us pay this one back. However, if that is the case, all the work that we're doing is worth it. And so even if we had to, we would make it happen. I hope we don't. I don't think that we do, but if we had to, we would.
As I said in the introduction, it seems like restaurant table service will be allowed again in the sort of June 17 to 20 window. So you've got about a month. Tell me about your timeline. Are you going to send an email to staff tomorrow when phase 1 reopens and say, okay, guys, we've got a month. Here's what I'm aiming to do?
Yeah, we're actually, our general manager, Paula Patterson, and Chef Zoe, we're outside right now coming up with a timeline, and we have some dates with metrics on it, and I guess we'll share that with you upon completion right now. We'll be introducing different menu items. We will be reintroducing Donna's Italian in the pandemic mode. So we're going to open it up as a pickup and delivery brand for the interim, just to give people something excited about. So there'll be timelines for all of that. And as soon as we have them, you'll have them. Oh, another thing, in regards to full service, it seems stupid to me to try to do full service. It's dumb. It's like, this wine is a great bouquet. Oh, the varietal here, blah, 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 blah. It's creepy. Nobody wants to be served by a guy in a mask and gloves. They don't want it. And it just seems silly to me to even attempt it.
I know I certainly wouldn't want to, as you know,
It's stupid.
I love Peck's
It's dumb.
Arcade. Sitting at the kitchen bar at Peck's Arcade are my favorite places to have a meal. But I agree that it would so fundamentally change the experience that if the guys were in masks and I needed to wear a mask till I sat down and then I could take it off, but then I'm still only at some point like 3 feet away from them, so maybe I couldn't even sit at the kitchen bar. So then I have to sit at the table, and the servers say it does fundamentally change the experience. And so are you thinking of more like people will come in, they'll order at a counter, and then the food will be brought to them wherever they're located within the space?
Yes, we can do that, but I want to take it one step further. I'd like you to order and have your food waiting for you before you even walk through the door.
Okay, so that's a reservations model that you would need to say, hey, 3 of us are coming. We'll be there at 6:15. Here's the order. And so when I walk in, boom, it's ready, and that actually turns the tables faster for you because I'll be in and out.
I think you. No, I don't even think it's that complicated, Steve. I think you do it on your phone. I think you order on the website, you pay for it in advance, and we have a designated pickup area. You pick up your product and you sit wherever you're comfortable. And we give people a multitude of seating arrangements. That's what we plan to do in the interim. We will then introduce the private dining when ready, probably at some point in early July. But in the interim, I'm thinking that this space, we're just going to create a lot of room for people to spread out and encourage people to order online, on their phone, on our website ahead of time. So they're not waiting around, standing around, being overly communicative with anybody. They're showing up, they're picking up their product, and they're making themselves comfortable immediately. We're cutting out all of that whole process.
Last question for you. You've been running around like crazy, but have you had time to get takeout from anywhere else? And if so, what have you had that you've really enjoyed?
Sunhees Farm and Kitchen. Gina does a great job in her packaging. It's very thoughtful. I've been doing a lot of pizza myself all the time. Testo's in Lansingburg really does a great job as well. I miss the Chinese food restaurants. I'm glad that they're coming back online. And I'll tell you what, Chinese restaurants are going to come back in a big way. They were built for this. They already have their own delivery infrastructure. Chinese foods are going to make the biggest comeback you've ever seen in your life. They're silent right now. They're chilling. They're kicking back, and they're going to come back big time.
Well, good. I was surprised that so many closed, and frankly disappointed, because some of my favorite places to go are Chinese, and I've really been missing it. So I'm glad to hear that it's coming back. I really appreciate you chatting with me, and good luck. And I'm absolutely interested in coming and taking a tour of the space when you're ready to unveil. Have a good day, Vic. Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you for the opportunity, Steve. Thank you, Times Union.
That's Vic Christopher from Clark House Hospitality, who's been telling us about his plans for late spring and early summer, what they're looking to do. If you'd like to read more about the restaurant business and what changes and things that are happening, check out food coverage and restaurant coverage on timesunion.com. Go to the Table Hopping blog. You can look for me on Facebook and on Twitter. And until next week, same time, 1 p.m. Tuesday, this is Steve Barnes from the Times Union saying, eat well and be well.